heart to be consumed by other things, you find that your desire for God begins to die. So you need to always make sure that the desire for the things of God is a priority. Desire to see God. Desire to experience God. You must have tenacity to say, I want to see God. I want to hear God in my life. These are what we call stretched prayers. You don't stop until something happens. Don't be lazy in the place of prayer. Don't be a quitter when it comes to praying. You must pray through, pray through, pray through, pray through. I tell you, you will see God in your life. You will see answers to your prayer. You will testify what you gave up before, because now something is rising in you to say, I can push and see God.
Remember, this is an online night of prayer session with Reverend Dr. Clement Nkoma. Now, Dr. Nkoma will teach on prevailing in prayer.
As we finish our prayers, we are going to look at tenacity. Tenacity. What does it mean by tenacity in prayer? Tenacity means to lock yourself up in prayer until you see the results. You know, like the bulldog. The bulldog, it locks its teeth when it holds the meat. So if you want to push the bulldog away from your skin, you will rip the skin. That's why when they want to remove the bulldog, what they do is they beat the bulldog so that it opens its mouth. So that's tenacity of the bulldog. The same with us. We need to have tenacity when it comes to prayer. What is tenacity? Tenacity is refusing a no, whatever the case. I repeat, tenacity in prayer is when you refuse a no until you see a manifestation of an answer. I'll give you a good example. When I was in Botswana looking for a job as an expatriate, I didn't have experience in Malawi. So it was difficult even for me to be a CPA in Botswana. But I knew some little things in the kingdom that can violate protocols, and one of it was tenacity in prayer. So what I used to do is I would go for job hunting, because those days in Botswana, usually we used to start working with accounting firms. So they were very open to walk-ins for interviews. So we just used to knock on the doors of an accounting firm and ask them if they're looking for a chartered accountant. So such was the case anyway. So what I used to do is I would go on Tuesdays and on Thursday looking for a job. But on Monday, Wednesday, and on Friday, I'd go to a mountain. There was a small mountain near our house where I had my prayer points. I was praying for favor, uncommon favor. It had to be uncommon favor because I was an inexperienced person. So praying for uncommon favor. And also, I was also praying for, because for you to be a CPA in Botswana, you must be a chartered accountant. Well, me, I went when the results were not yet out, so all I had was a confirmation that I have written the exams. So these things were my drawback in experience, and also I didn't have the final chartered accountant paper because the results were not yet out. So I used to go on Monday, Wednesday. So I'd go around 10 o'clock up to 3 o'clock. 10 o'clock up to 3 o'clock. What was I doing? Tenacity in prayer. Tenacity in prayer. Now, the good thing about tenacity in prayer, even if you don't receive at that time, there is an assurance that it will still happen. So it's not even about, I prayed, did you get the job? No, I gave myself a month for tenacity in prayer. And I knew that afterwards, it doesn't matter how it happens, I know I will eventually have a job. And it happened exactly like that. Because my days of staying there were finished. So I left Botswana and I came to Malawi. And to be honest, I think my parents were a bit sad that I have come back. And they started advising me to look for a job, which I did. And I found a job as the chief accountant at Mawan Chemicals. But what happened was, even before I would go to start the work, there was a call from Botswana to my dad. No, actually, he received a letter that I have been granted my CPA, and also one company is ready to employ me. So the same week, I left for Botswana and started working with a working permit. How did this happen? It's what we call tenacity in the place of prayer. There are some things we don't just let them go. You need to have tenacity. I'll give you another example. There was a man in our church who was becoming sick almost very frequently, and I was getting worried. As a pastor, I think you start getting worried when there are signs of death somewhere in your church. So one day I was going to work, that time I was still working, and they told me that that guy has been admitted again, and it bothered me so much. I turned the car, I rang the office, I said, I'm not coming today, I have other commitments. So I went upstairs. I told my wife, I said, I will not come out until I hear that he's released from the hospital. So I started praying maybe around 9 o'clock, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's when I heard that he has been released. Ever since that day when he was released, he has never been sick anymore. You know, I remember around 4 o'clock when my wife was climbing upstairs because I was praying in what we call attic. It's like the third floor in the house. So I could hear her steps, dee, 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 dee. And you could hear the movement, excitement that something has happened. Then she came, she says, Darling, the man is out of hospital. You can stop praying now. What was that? Tenacity. I will not let you go until something happens. But you can't just do these prayers. There must be a burning, hot desire inside. You know, our heart's first desire is to do kingdom. But once you allow your heart to be consumed by other things, you find that your desire for God begins to die. So you need to always make sure that the desire for the things of God is a priority. Desire to see God. Desire to experience God. You must have tenacity to say, I want to see God. I want to hear God in my life. These are what we call straight prayers. You don't stop until something happens. A good example is David. When his child died, whom he had with Bathsheba, David went for it. He went for tenacity, but the child still died. But because of the prayers he did, the replacement was even greater. It was Solomon. So that's the good thing about tenacity. If I pray, even if I pray didn't happen, but because prayers and supplication have already been given, something better will have to come out. That's why you don't lose with tenacity. If you knew these principles, when you pray prayers like this, even if the answer is no, you still rejoice because you know prayers have already been given. There is something that God has to do to answer your prayers. So usually it's even better than what you're praying for. But these things of just not really wanting something, just like throwing in case God answers, this is what has made many believers to be victims. When it comes to prayers, you must have tenacity. You stand your ground. You stand your ground regardless of what the circumstances are saying. You know, even the crusades we are making, we have not been promised money by anybody. You see, these are not crusades where somebody asks you, do you want to do crusades? You say, yes, I do. Okay, I will give you 30 million kwanza. Start organizing the crusades. No. We start these crusades by the mandate God gave me. I am first a teacher. I am second an evangelist. That's why every year we try to go out. Why? It's part of my office being an evangelist. That's why even when we go to Machinjiri, let's say 2,000 people receive Jesus. I'm not like wishing all the 2,000 to come to me. No. If other pastors will be there, they will be introduced and the people can go to their churches. Why? It's because it's an office that I carry. But how do you get those crusades going? Tenacity in prayer. Tenacity in prayer. You stand your ground. You say, you know what? It will happen. It will happen. You remember prayers of Daniel, 21 days fasting and prayer. What is that? Tenacity. He didn't want to let go. Let's look at the obvious one, Genesis 32. Genesis 32 verse 22. What does it say? And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants and his 11 sons and passed over the ford of Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the brook and sent over that he had. And Jacob was left alone. And there he wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the whole of his thigh, and the whole of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled. And he said, let me go, for the day breaks. And he said, I will not let you go, except thou blessest me. And he said, and to whom, you see, he says, I will not let you go until you bless me. And he said, your name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince, thou have power with God and with men, and have prevailed. You see, tenacity causes you to prevail. You can change your identity just by tenacity in prayers. You can tell yourself, I will be doing 1 night of prayer every day for the whole year. That investment When you start harvesting, you can say, I'll fast for maybe 70 days. Now, what is that? Tenacity. You are putting in investment in your life. Look at Luke 18, verse 1 to 8. It's an example of tenacity. Don't be a quitter when it comes to the things of God. If you know it is God who has told you, be tenacious about it. It says, and he said a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint, saying, there was in a city a judge which feared not God, neither regarded man. And there was a widow in that city, and she came unto him, saying, avenge for me my adversary. And he would not for a while. But afterwards he said within himself, though I fear not God, nor regard man, and yet because this widow troubles me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she wearies me. You see, that's what tenacity does. It wears the opposition. You're not being tenacious to God. No, it is the opposition. The devil is holding your destiny. Things like your husband is cheating on you. You don't just pray once. You just tell yourself, I'll fast for 70 days. Every day I'll be praying from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock for 70 days. Let's see what happens. That's how I live my life. That's why sometimes when you're close to me, you will think I am bored, as if in Chichewa we say, like I have a hidden weapon. No. I know tenacity in prayer. That's my life. Even when I want to start bodybuilding, I'll tell myself, I will work out for 100 days. Every day I'll do 20 sets and see what will happen. That's my mind. That's how my brain works. You see, that's what I train my children. I tell them, you study 6 hours a day, 1.5 hours on this subject, and let's see the change. I am very specific in my things. Even in my spiritual walk, that's the way I live my life. So tenacity has been my weapon all days. I remember with the church, we did 90 days night of prayers non-stop. We did another one in June, 90 days night of prayers by force. You know what is that? I am a tenacious person. And that one, I am not saying to boast, it changes nothing. That's who I am. When I start something, I will do it thoroughly. I am tenacious. I am not a quitter. I don't give up on things easily. If I pray, I see no results, I don't change my course. I don't change my confession. I know I will break through. Why? Tenacious. Are you tenacious enough? You remember Elijah, 7 times he told the servant to check. The servant checked and there was no rain. And Elijah kept pushing. What was that? Tenacious. The book of Acts, when the disciples were in prison, the Bible says they continued praying. What was that? Tenacious. There has to be tenacity in your life. Find things you want to fulfill in your life and give them range of time. Like me, the city that we want to build, I give it 3 hours every day, just praying for the city. We are opening the city in 2030, but I'm investing 3 hours every day, apart from Sundays and Mondays. What is that? Tenacity. So you can't tell me today that 2030 I will not have a city. It can't happen. The level of investment I'm doing in the spirit, all forces are under my disposal. Hey, I tell you, all forces are under my disposal. I deal with them properly. I am tenacious. And that's the way a believer must be. Don't be lazy in a place of prayer. Don't be a quitter when it comes to praying. You must pray through. I tell you, you will see God in your life. You will see answers to your prayer. You will testify what you gave up before, because now something is rising in you to say, I can push and see God. Shalom, shalom, shalom.
Reverend Dr. Clement Nkoma teaching on prevailing in prayer.